Hi, welcome. I'm Valerie Steele. Thanks for coming to the Fashion Culture program at the museum at FIT. Tonight we've got a really great program. We've got AF Vandevorst, Anne and Philip are going to be here talking in conversation about their new book and their 20th anniversary show. So please join me in welcoming them.
Hi, can you hear me? Is this on, everyone? Yes. Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Sally Singer from Vogue, and I have known Anne and Philippe for, I guess, 20 years, because they've just celebrated 20, and Michael as well. And they have just published an incredible book about their career. It's extremely personal. It has lots of statements from people who've known you and worked with you, thought about you for all these 20 years. I highly recommend that you all get it and look at it and go through it, because it has an extraordinary number of visual references that both show your career over 20 years, but also I think the history of sort of independence in fashion in these 20 years, the sorts of models who worked for independent designers, the sort of spirit of independent design, something that's right now is kind of interesting. It chronicles a time that changed, because so many designers who started out when you started out are no longer running their own companies in the same way and working in that way and building that very specific signature. I mean, I was actually trying to think, Rick Owens is someone I think it comes to mind who's done taken a similar path. So I sort of wanted to start by asking you guys about that. What is it like to be an independent designer 20 years on? How did you create such a strong independent label, and why did you stay that way?
Well, it's weird to, after 20 years, to see that you're still independent, because meanwhile there are a lot of designers where you start with in 2000 that were even announced in US Vogue as the designers of the new millennium, and I think we were 13, and I think we're the only one of the 13 that are still independent and still in business in the way we started. So yeah, I'm wondering from time to time, what makes us, and I don't know why, but it feels a bit Belgian, I think. I don't know, there's only Armani, Dries van Noten, who...
But Dries is no longer independent.
No longer anymore, exactly, exactly. But no, on the other hand, I think it's a kind of freedom that you keep and that you afford yourself.
But also I think it's like we are man and wife, a husband and wife. We studied together, so we built this whole story together from the very beginning, from the first day we met each other. We share this passion, and so in good times and in bad times we're always together, and we're always supporting each other, and we have so many stories to tell that I think that's why we still are doing everything in our power to be able to keep on telling our stories, because that's the most important thing for us.
You could do a second book on how to keep married and not supportive for 20 years. I think could actually sell very well. I mean, most people can't seem to do that. But could you talk a little about how you met? Because I actually read in the book that you'd been on a TV show or something at some point. So you'd first seen him once on a TV show, but then you met at college.
Yeah, I didn't realize. So maybe Philip tells the beginning of the story, why you were on TV.
Why were you on TV age 16?
Yeah.
Why I was on TV, it all started, but I tried to keep it very brief and short. But it all started with an article I read in a magazine which is comparable to the Belgian Vogue, which was the most important magazine at that moment, and it was a storytelling about youth of 15, and saying that they all wear the same clothes, they don't have any personality. If one wears that kind of jeans, the other wears the same trousers, they all wear the same shoes. And I was like very embarrassed about that article, and I wrote to the editor-in-chief to say, like, listen, there are other kids around that have a personality, that have something to say, that have something to express with their clothes. So she invited me to have an interview in that magazine, and then from there the magazine had connections with the television, and the television rang to my mom and said, like, yeah, your son, he writes letters, and my mom said, but what's he doing in his room? Like, why are you? And then she came to me, she said, like, yeah, now you have to explain it on television. It's your own fault. I said, like, no, it's not my fault. I like to be heard or heard. How do you say that? Yeah. I like to be heard, but so I have something to tell, and I don't want that everybody puts me in the same bucket. So then I was on television, and then the Bickenbergs was there also, so I had to get in front of on stage before an audience and choosing an outfit backstage of which I could express something that was different what the other kids were wearing, and of which I could say, like, okay, that's how I express myself, that's what I like, that's what I think it's also youth of 15. And Bickenberg's was also, I had to give points, and he said, like, yeah, that guy, I think he deserves like 200%. So then 1 week later, Bickenberg asked backstage, like, Philip, do you know what you want to do in life? I said, like, not really, I don't know, I still have to think, I'm only 15, so I still have time. He said, like, I think there's only one way, just go to the academy, you have to do fashion is the right choice for you. So then I started to get really, like, interested in the Academy of Antwerp and what fashion is all about. And then I would think 1 week or 2 weeks later, Bickenbergs called my mom. He said, like, yeah, I think your son really should have like a tutor, should have like kind of person who guides him into fashion world. Can I take him with me to Paris to see like all fashion shows? So I never told my mom, which said, yes, okay. But she said, like, okay, take him, show him the world. So Bickenbergs took me with me on a train, and then he said, like, yeah, do you mind if there are some other friends of mine also coming with us to Paris? I said, oh, I don't know anyone, so why not? And then I stepped on the train, and there was Anne Meulemis, there was Wouter van Bernung, there were the Six of Antwerp. So that's my first experience in fashion, like going to Paris to fashion shows with the Six of Antwerp. So for a kid of 15, it's like very overwhelming. So then I came back, and from there, it's like, yeah, it all went straight ahead to the academy. I got like a mission, I got like a goal, I knew what I wanted to have in life, and it was like straight ahead to the academy, where the first day of school I met a beautiful girl who was strolling in the hallway, and there was Anne, who can continue the story.
Yes, please do.
And then, so we were looking actually where our classroom was, and we didn't find it, and I was like, yeah, it must be here somewhere. But then we hear a bell ringing, and so we had to go downstairs in the hall, and then we found out that was, unfortunately, there were 60 students, and we had to be divided over 3 classes, and it was according alphabet. So, and Philip, like the AF is, by the way, is Philip. It's Filip Arickx, or Arickx Philip. It's not Anne and Philip, but it's Arickx Philip.
Really?
And so Philip's last name was Arickx, so he had to be in the first class, and my last name was Vandevorst, so I had to be in the 3rd class. So unfortunately, we were not in the same class. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really a pity, but we see each other during the break. And then after, I think, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, somebody was knocking at the door of my classroom, and it was Philip. And he said, can I be in this class? Can I be in this classroom? And then Linda Loppa was our teacher at that time, and she says, no, because it's the maximum is 20 students each class. And she said, unless somebody wants to swap. And then there was one girl, her name is Vera van den Bos, I will be grateful for her. And she said, like, I don't mind. I don't know anybody here, so I might as well switch. So, and then Philip came to be in my, next to me in my classroom. And then in the same week, I think at the end of the week, the students from the final year, from the fourth year, they found out that Philip has been on TV when he was a kid. And that was in the hallway, like in the corridor, there was this like small closets where you could, or boards where you could put like images or announcements. And it was like all pictures of Philip would be like, I am the 200%.
Oh my God.
And then it was only then that I realized, because I saw that program when I was also the same age. So I saw the program, and I realized that was Philip, because at that time I was really amazed by this person who had this like, yeah, he could speak so well, and he had this own way of dressing. And I remember, because he chose to wear like, I think 2 or 3 raincoats, like the how do you say it, impermeable,
Raincoats.
yeah, raincoats, yeah, on top of each other. And I remember that Dirk Bickenberg said like, yeah, you're so great, you get 200% from me. So yeah, that
So
was.
cool. So, since we're in the context of a fashion college, which college I like very much, FIT, could you say a little about what you thought was the best thing about your education at the academy? What did you take away the most from that?
For me personally, it was like it was paradise when I got into the school and we saw the program and I didn't want to leave there anymore. Like, but the day was over. Like at the end of the day, I felt sad it was over. But I think in the academy, the most important is that they pull you really inside out. They really make you dig inside you and like, who are you and what's your, how far reaches your creativity and your personality. So I think that was really, for me personally, the strongest education I got there.
For you?
Yeah, it's more or less the same, and it's something that they taught you at that moment that you still need, like every day in every decision you make in life. Like they were like, okay, whenever you make a decision, whenever you put a goal, make sure that you don't lose the goal out of sight, and make the way you go to your goal, try to have the best and as much as possible luggage to reach the goal. So, and that was really the best lesson I got in life at the academy.
When you left, did you know you were going to do his initials, your surname company? Because you worked for Dries, right? And when did you know you were going to launch the company? And when did you know the Red Cross and sort of your signatures? Because you had very strong. You've maintained very strong codes from very early on.
Yeah.
And were those mutually agreed at, or is like, do you get the cross and you get the corset bindings, or like, how does that work for you guys?
No, first of all, the cross, which is our logo since the beginning. Like for me, like was like when I was 12, I collected furniture from the Red Cross. Like the Red Cross stopped. The Red Cross changed furniture in the village where I was living, and they put like their old furniture out on the street. So I went with my father to collect all those beds and the night tables, and I stocked it in the garage. And ever since then, I tried to collect, kept on collecting furniture and hospital design. And then when I met Anne and I came into her room, I saw like she was doing like the same thing. So it was, and on top of that, Anne's mom is an art teacher, and Anne got like the whole introduction into Joseph Beuys' world. And Joseph Beuys, the German artist who is working a lot with the Red Cross as a logo in his work, was also very present in Anne's room, in posters and all kind of visuals of the artist. So yeah, from there we thought like, yeah, there's only one symbol that really unites us, which is the Red Cross, until we came up with a full Red Cross, and the Red Cross was going to sue us and put us in, and threatened us to put us in jail and whatever. So we took like only the outlines, and that's how it got.
Cool. And in terms of your design, like how do you work? How do you divvy up design? And how did it start, and how does it work now?
In the beginning, we did like literally everything together, like from choosing fabrics, colors, setting up the theme, the mood boards, designing, going to the fabric fairs, setting up the showroom, the production, like everything we did, the two of us together all the time, together, fittings, everything. But then at a certain point, somebody told us like, yeah, but you are like losing so much time because you're all the time, the two of you, everywhere. Mm-hmm. So then we decided to divide the responsibilities, and then like then Philip said like, yeah, maybe you should be responsible for the designing part, and like Philip was then more at that time more responsible for the organization part, but also for the how AF Vandevorst is coming outside, like the image
Mm-hmm.
To the shows and so. But of course, both of us, there was not one thing that went outside our studio without each other's permission. But still, like there was one responsible. So in a discussion, that was like I had the last word in the designing part, and Philip in the image part.
Have you guys ever had a big disagreement over a piece, a collection,
Yes.
a move?
Oh yes, we did. Yeah, but then like
Share, please.
oh yeah, it happens.
But that's part of
regularly,
the part of the evolution of a garment or of an idea or of a collection. Like it has to go over. It doesn't have to be a bumpy road, but it has to go over conversations and different meanings of different opinions, and so in that way, that's more or less the only way that you really keep on digging into an idea, into a concept, into a design, and that's how you get the best out of it. If you agree like every single second, I don't feel really the joy or the...
Yeah, but it was like both ways. Like for instance, like sometimes like I was, I designed a shoe, and then Philip said like, oh my God, like really this, I really don't like this one. And I said like, yeah, but really, I do believe in this one. And then he said like, yeah, if you did, and then I can defend myself like really like a lion. And then so like I got to persuade him to continue with this one, and then finally it appeared to be the best sold shoe ever. But at the other hand, it was also that like sometimes you're like desperately, like if you have a certain dress and you're like, and it's not working, and you're desperate, and you ask another prototype and another one and another one, and you're fitting and then at the end you really want that it works, and then but you're not objective anymore, and then you're like
You're only working against the last one. You can't even remember how you started.
Yeah. And then actually you are so desperately wanted to work that you don't see anymore that actually it's not good anymore. And then it's so good that Philip's there and say like, Anne, really, like this is hideous, like stop, like throw it in the bin. It's not nice. So it works also in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Michael wrote the book and is responsible really for putting the book together with you, right? And you've followed Anne and Philip's work from the start, correct?
from the start, and then I started working with them and working on their press for North America about 10 years into the game. I started working with them for Spring Summer '09, and I was a fan from them from the second that we met. Anne was very quiet and kind of gave me a wink and walked away. And Philip just came up to me with warm, open arms and embraced me, and I immediately fell further into their narrative. And it was a really special one. It was one of their, it was a collection based on the idea of a little girl playing dress up in her mother's clothes. So shoes where they looked like they were too big on every model's feet, and their hair was blown out. And it was just like, I felt like I fell into this world even further. And I went from fanboy to what feels like family.
And in putting together the book and going through all the images, did anything surprise you? Something that you'd missed in those years, or something that loomed larger than you thought?
I think half of the book felt a little bit like a family reunion in a way. You know, we spent so much time laughing together and creating something together. But the other half of the book, which was more of their beginnings from 1998 through 2008, it felt like going through a family album and, you know, learning about all of your crazy aunts and uncles before, you know, you really got to know them. And, you know, there were a couple of stories in there. There's one story in particular that I love where Anne sort of snubbed Dries a little bit and wasn't that excited to intern for him or join as his first assistant. Do you want to tell that story? It's one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, it's about the arrogance of youth, I think. Like when I went to do a job interview at Dries, a friend of us advised me to go there because he said, like, yeah, Dries, he's like all the time working with interns. I think he might need an assistant that stays permanent. So like, you can go there. But at that time, I was like, I wanted to work for Martin Margiela in Paris, and I was more into this vibe. But then I thought, like, yeah, why not? And so I went to see him. I showed him my book, and then he's asked me, like, yeah, what do you think about my collections? And then I said, like, really, I'm still ashamed of that moment because it was very embarrassing. It's like, yeah, I like a few things, and then he said, like, yeah, and if you would work here, what would you do? And I said, like, yeah, I can do many things. I can design, but I can also organize things. So, and he felt happy about this. And then at the end, he said, like, yeah, okay. So, like, maybe I have to think about it, but I think, like, yeah, you fit here. And then I said, like, yeah, but I only want to work here 1 year. That's all. And then he said, like, 1 year? And I said, like, yeah, only 1 year. And then he went to his pattern maker and he said, like, yeah, I have this girl here. I would really love her to work here, but she will only stay 1 year. And then she said, the pattern maker said, like, yeah, but give it a try, you never know. And then I stayed finally 6.5 years. So I was very happy working there.
And can I ask, what do you think the perception of Belgian design is outside of Belgium now? What do you think, how do you think the Belgian design, you refer to the Antwerp 6, which is, now imagine for students, it's a very, very long time ago. That's like deep history, right? How do you think Belgian design has evolved since then? How do you think it's, how do you think it plays now as opposed to then, 20 years ago when you started? What it meant to be from Antwerp and to be a Belgian designer? Dries being the most famous
Belgian
one here.
design evolved like very much with the last move that Dries did, like saying selling the majority stake of his company to Puig in Spain, like is quite another angle that nobody knew from a Belgian designer, and I think from there it adds another perception on Belgian design, because everybody thought, like, yeah, Belgian designers are like very stubborn, and they want to remain independent, and they don't want to sell, they don't want other people to be involved. And it never has been the case like this. Although it was that perception, but I think like we are there until we find like the right person to bring us to another level, and it means the same for Dries as it means for us, as it means for other Belgian designers, because like, yeah, if you really go into history, and as you call it, deep history
Deep
for the
history.
six of Antwerp, makes us feel like really dinosaurs.
No,
but
no, but you know what I mean.
but then anyhow,
To college.
it is true. Like that there are sometimes at our fashion show, there are people in the audience that even weren't born at the moment that we started. So it's like, wow, that feels like very weird. But anyhow, it goes like very fast when you're known for a certain concept, when you're known for a certain DNA. It's very hard to bring it to the audience. Like, listen, each of us as a Belgian designer are open to work with other people, and we are not that like, oh, it's our way or the highway.
Right.
It's like, I don't know. We're very conceptual, yes, but does this mean that we're not open or very narrow-minded? No, I don't think so.
Well, Raf is a Belgian designer, and he's certainly far from where he started. I mean, although he is quite protective of his own company. His own company
Exactly.
is not, because didn't even Anne sold, but she sold to a Belgian at some point,
Yeah.
right? Even Anne sold.
Yeah, also she sold to the person that was next to her or her right hand,
Right.
like for years, and then she felt like, okay, like at a certain moment, let's leave it to other people. Let's have other people like the power to bring it to another level, and that's how she thought. But everybody is in his own person, trying to go for the right deal, for the right moment, for the right person. Yeah. I personally have to say, like, it's our story. It's my wife and my story, and I don't feel very comfortable, for instance, that someone else continues our story. We don't talk about it that much at home, so I even don't know if Anne, she thinks the same of it. But I don't need. I think it's our story, and nobody can tell our story as much as we do. So why and leave space for younger designers, for new designers who are born in another era, who are raised with other means and other technology and whatever, and let them. I always feel a bit weird, like it's a certain name designing another name is like, why not just give it all to his name, to the one who designs? I never knew when Picasso died that someone said like, oh, from now on I'm gonna paint and I'm gonna sign with Picasso. So it's a bit weird, but that's my personal opinion, and I'm sure that other people are thinking in a different way.
I think if you can hold on to your name, it's a very good thing. I think a lot of people sell their names and then they don't know how to get them back, and it's all a bit. I think it's quite off-putting when someone's living and their name is being designed by someone else. I mean, unless they've been paid some enormous amount of money that has allowed them to walk away, like Helmet or something like that. Become an artist, raise chickens, do astrology, whatever he does now. Right? And that's one of the great absences from fashion right now, that Helmut Lang walked away.
Yeah.
Right. But he was paid gazillion dollars, so I think it's tricky. How do you think fashion has changed in 20 years? What do people do differently now that you couldn't have done then, and vice versa? How's the business changed?
Oh, it changed a lot.
Good
But
and bad. You can do the high and the low.
No, but it's like there is no good and bad. It's different. Like every era has his positive things as well. So it's like when we started, okay, the pace was not so fast, and because there was no, I think hardly there was the cell phone was just
Right.
born then. So it was the computer started. So it was really like it was we worked with faxes, and like it was completely different. So everything went much slower. But of course, when you had to give a fashion show, it was like everybody had to be there, or you didn't see it. There was no way for people to see it. It was only for professionals. Nobody else was invited. And now, okay, now the rhythm is really high, and the expectations are also much higher. But on the other hand, due to the digital opportunities, the whole world can see what you're doing. So I think that's also a good thing.
Do you stage it differently? Are your shows different shows? Does it change who you cast? Does it change what you make? Does it?
Yeah, it changed, and of course, like the way you show it changed a lot. And for us, like who are there like for 20 years now, we're like looking and going for the opportunities that give us the chance to not only show in Paris but
You're
also
showing in Milan.
like this season we show in Milan, and it's like, yeah, you can do it because you like it, you just want to do it, and the story doesn't sound or looks different when you show it in Paris or you show it in Milan.
And why Milan? I was just we're just at the start of Fashion Month tonight, and it's going to continue on till October 3rd. And these two normally show in Paris, but they're showing during Milan Fashion Week, which means you have to show a week earlier, right? It's about a week earlier.
Yep.
You cut yourself 5 days or so. So why Milan? Why this season?
Well, first of all, we were invited as at the White, which is a fashion fair in Milan, and as a special guest over there. They proposed us to have like a guerrilla store, just a temporary store during Milan Fashion Week. We have also a book presentation over there. There's a press event around the Vandevorst. So we thought, like, yeah, why don't we concentrate everything in Milan then, and why don't we just add the show on top of it? And instead of like 10 years ago, you should like think about it and evaluate and whatever. But now it's like the decision is made. Like, oh, okay, we have this and this and this opportunity. Oh, we're gonna add this one on top of it, and it allows us to be surrounded by a completely different environment, by other designers. Of course, Paris will remain one of the fashion capitals and has another approach of showing and having their designers. But I think like I like to I'm really looking forward of showing over there and see like, okay, how will the audience be over there? It's like a singer or an actor who plays in a comedy or in a drama. It's a singer who sings in China or in Hong Kong or in Canada. Like you can always
also like now these days, like before you had a specific audience that not everybody went to Milan, not everybody went to Paris. So you had a specific audience. Now you still have this specific audience, but the other audience get to see it anyhow because it's like live streamed or they can see it anyhow. So it was for us also, because we always design for a kind of a nomad woman, like a woman who travels, and so we thought like, yeah, why don't we do the same? Why don't we like also travel around, and like it doesn't matter where you show.
No, I mean it's a cool thing to do now.
Yeah.
I think it might matter in your you have very specific castings, and I don't always know if those girls turn up in Milan, but perhaps they do. I mean, it might affect your casting is all. I mean, 'cause you cast with the very strong personalities.
Yeah, but that's like of course, like worldwide, there are strong personalities. It's not only linked to Paris or to, and when we are in Paris, we also, it's an international casting, so we can. It doesn't. I think every country, every city, every environment has his. I'm sure his great characters all
One
over
would
the
hope.
world. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the moment when it's time to have questions from the audience, guys. If anyone has a question, we'll start calling on you. Anything you'd like to ask? Way up in the back.
That's for us very, very important, and that's something we do not produce in China at all, not one single piece. It's all in Europe. All our manufacturers are, like the shoes are made in Italy and partially made in Portugal, and our clothes are all Belgian manufacturers who, due to changing the way of working, moved to Eastern Europe countries, but they're all the original Belgian owners who moved there. So we're still working with actually kind of Belgian relations in Eastern Europe. Is it? So it's for us. It's really important when we go to visit stores, because I like to see what other people do, and then you can feel and touch the fabrics. And I do agree that now these days you see a lot of garments that are made in like very low qualities, and I'm really always a bit shocked.
Well, there's a question from the audience, and that was written on a card. Thank you, whoever did this. That actually, I think, follows on this nicely, which is about your lingerie. And for all of you who don't know, Vandevorst has always done incredibly beautiful, incredibly sort of, I would say it's both kind of artisanal and old school, and then like ridiculously kinky lingerie. Super good. Saying, would you ever produce and sell lingerie again in the way that you first launched it? And that was launched with Belgian. You guys had Belgian lingerie makers. That's what the issue is. Could you keep working in that way? So the question originally is, what initially drew you to make those pieces, lingerie and nightwear and the like, and will you still produce it in the way, etc.?
Yeah, we would love to continue, because it was partially made in Belgium and partially made in France. And but at a certain moment, the manufacturers, they got difficulties, and so they could not maintain their business, and they had to stop. And that's why we also had to stop, because we only wanted to continue with a manufacturer that could like understand what we want, that could give us the quality that we ask in the combination. Because for us, it's always important to when we do lingerie, it's not just lingerie. We always work with this contrast. We give it always a twist, and so, but quality keeps on really the most important factor. And if there is tomorrow another manufacturer who would approach us and say like, yeah, guys, I really would like to do it, then we would start immediately again.
Someone in the audience would like to know about the current fashion scene in Belgium.
The current fashion scene in Belgium, well, it's something we talk about it a lot, but to be sure, like the current fashion scene, meaning like the designers we have, or the how do you say, the opleiding, the education we have, or just like the fashion scene you see in the street.
I don't know who gave the question, but
I don't know who gave the question, but then I I don't want to answer to something which
Can I ask
wasn't.
can I say what's the scene in this? What do you think is different about the way people dress on the street in Belgium or in Antwerp? Because I know Antwerp is different from Brussels. Belgium is not a uniform country, and New York. What's a
And
Belgian look?
But that's for me. It's something that I discuss a lot with my friends. But for me, I'm always like a little bit disappointed in the Belgian look in the street. I feel like a lot of gray mice, and when I was like 15 and I went to London, I was like, I saw everybody talking through his clothes. I couldn't speak barely English, but I understood like everybody I was crossing in the street. Like there were punkers, there were new wavers, there were hard rock, there was metal, and everybody spoke the language through their clothes. But you don't see everybody's a skater or everybody's a surfer or everybody. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in that way. On the other hand, because I'm so interested in talking through garments, I'm always trying to look and to find the person who, and yeah, what I like very much about, or what for me is the difference between the Belgian audience and the New York audience is like in New York or LA, where we come more often, like you go in the street and people give you compliments about what you're wearing. We were like, this afternoon we were in the street and just guys were saying like, wow, you look cool. Or you hear someone else saying to someone, wow, love your boots, or I like your hair, or which are compliments you never hear in Belgium. We don't do, and that's the nice part of walking around or strolling around in New York. If you go out, you take a little bit more time in the morning to dress up or to just to think about what you're going to wear for the day, how you feel, and you come out, and in the evening you come home and you're so happy you took like those 10 minutes more in the morning because everybody gives you compliments and you're so satisfied about your decision of the day.
That's so cool. So everyone in Belgium doesn't dress like you?
No, and even
No.
when I entered when I came in Antwerp, I was like, but I came from like a college and was like not really uniforms with colors you had to wear, and then I came in Antwerp and was like, wow, the first day I took skirts from my sister, dresses from my mom, and whatever, like, wow, now life is gonna start. And after a week I had to stop. I had to say like, ooh, people start to shout at you, to run after you. I was like, okay, let's talk in another way then. So no, but still I like that other friends of mine who are very classic and very, yeah, it always comes up to a discussion about clothes or colors or fashion, and that's what I like, that I can give them something. They ask like, yeah, Philip, we never see you, for instance, with a t-shirt. Now I see you with a t-shirt today. How come? What's the t-shirt? Yeah, I like this t-shirt because of this knit, or because of this quality, feel, and this color. And then they start to feel, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's different than what I used to wear or whatever.
But can I just say, and then I'll answer. You guys, I've always thought it's very interesting, and you never, you are identical to 20 years. You never change, and even if fashion changes, you have always had the most consistent look of it, like most people in fashion. And as are a lot of AF Vandevorst clothes. You know it. You sort of know the components. There'll be a shirt dress. There'll be a really good trouser. And you change your look all the time. You're like David Beckham or something. It's like 1 week. It's like your hair, everything, right? How does that work out in your household? Like you've got like this neat little closet and it's perfect, and he's got like rooms.
No, it's the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Like the studio where I work is like a complete mess. It's a complete mess. And Philip's office is really nice and clean desk, and for me it was always like this because I work like at 10 or 20 things at the same time. So, but I know exactly where everything is, but it's like, yeah, I work like, oh, somebody else, I do this, somebody else, I do that. So it's full Dries, he called me the camembert. It's like the cheese, you know, like the cheese who is like when it's warm, it
just goes everywhere.
Yeah, it goes everywhere. So no, that's actually the opposite.
Yeah, but someone ever told us, like, when it's organized in your head, you get the permission to have like a chaos around you. When it's chaos in your mind, you have to be very organized around you.
That's quite cool.
So Anne's very organized in the head.
Okay, so the last question I have from the audience is: do you have any advice for students? Which that's actually rather good advice you just gave there, but what advice would you give to fashion students?
I
Both of you.
I would say whenever you have made the decision that you want to do fashion, just keep on going, because like it's a fantastic discipline. It's a really great world. It's as Anne already said, like it's paradise in a way. Sometimes there are a bit less coconuts on the trees, but it's really a paradise, and it's very nice to grow and to evolve in life without never stopping, putting yourself into bringing yourself into question, or how do you say, like to questioning yourself, to keep on looking around you, what's happening, what's going on, staying in inspired.
And
I don't
challenge
know.
yourself.
Challenge yourself. It's for me, it's a discipline, but yeah, it's a discipline I chose like since I was 15, so I've never known something else. But when I talk to other people who are following other disciplines, meaning, and then I mean not the creative ones, although I think like every profession has its creativity. I think like, yeah, it's for me, it's still, if I would do it all over again, I should take the same decision.
Fantastic. For you, any advice?
I think it's when sometimes young people come to work with us, like interns or trainees, like it's you can see immediately what you say caliber you have, and then you see like it is so important to focus, to really focus, to have a goal, and to really go for it and do everything in your power to reach that goal. And that's really important, like never give up, because everything is possible, and really everything. Because if I would not say it, because I have so many times that I asked our manufacturers to do something, and they always say, no, it's not possible. No. I hear in the States it's different. Here everything is possible, but that's what they say to me. But in Europe, everybody's like, no, it's not possible, because they think like, oh, we don't know this, and they're afraid. They say it because they are afraid of new things. And then I always have to think with them and find with them solutions and say like, but you can do it, like try to think in another way. And then they say like, no, but I never accept no, never, ever. And then at the end of the day, they do it. And at the end of the day, they are so happy because they challenge themselves to do it. Like, for instance, like I asked them to make a coat in a transparent fabric. And they say like, no, it's not possible, because you have to have the fusing in the collars and the cuffs and whatever. And then I said like, but you can do it. Like, why would these transparent fabrics exist if you could not work with it? And it's like, no, we cannot do it. And I said, can you make a shirt in a transparent fabric? And they say like, yes, of course we can make a shirt. So I said like, okay, then make a long shirt. Think about a long shirt. Then you have a long coat. And then they say like, yeah, you're right. We never thought like this. And then they did it.
Brilliant.
So, but that's why like you have to really, don't be afraid and just go for it and make it happen.
On that note, thank you all. This is, I think, our time, right?
Yes, and we have the book upstairs.
Oh, go buy the book.
Look at the book and bring it down, perhaps, to have it signed here.
And I think there's another video that can play as you do that.
Video of the